pull up my speech. Alright. We've all had this moment before. You're in the store grocery shopping or having lunch with a friend at a restaurant when you hear a loud scream. Your eyes look for the source of the scream, and you come to find a small child in full temper tantrum mode. You look at them with a look almost of disgust. They're yelling, they're crying, sometimes they're even completely falling apart, kicking, screaming, and you say things to yourself such as, that child needs a whipping, and they need their parent to parent them better, and that will never be my child. The behavior is appalling to see for most, an open outburst of negative behavior that most people see as a spoiled, rotten child. We associate this negative behavior with a negative attitude, and all in all, the situation most people find annoying and frustrating. I myself admit to this type of initial judgment. I've thought it and I've said it all before. Then one day I realized that I have one of these children. That's my baby right there, Lennon. He's 2 years old. He is my youngest child. As you can see, he has bright, beautiful big eyes, beautiful blonde hair, and by the look of it, he seems like a normal child. But ever since the day he was born, he has been a special part of our family, and by special, I mean special in more than one way. He is very easily lost in his own world, only interested in things that fascinate him. He's very easily upset, oftentimes not wanting to be bothered with someone, not oftentimes wanting to be bothered with anyone else but himself. His behavior is something someone would call spoiled. When he is angry, confused, or sad, he begins to basically turn into the Incredible Hulk. Once he reaches this point, it's really hard for him to come back. All children are unique and different in their own way, but some children are different in a more different way. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention quote the National Research Council and Institute of Medicine, stating that an estimated 13 to 20% of children, up to 1 in every 5 child, experience a mental disorder in any given year. The CDC called this term childhood mental disorder, from things such as ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, ODD, CD, and other behavioral, mood, and anxiety disorders. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, sourced by the National Institute of Mental Health, state approximately 2 million children have ADHD, that 3.4 in every 1,000 have autism or autism spectrum disorder, 1 to 4% have conduct disorder, and 1 to 4 have oppositional defiant disorder, and 1 to 6 have conduct disorder. With technology and acceptance increasing each day, children are able to receive the proper therapies and treatments to help them understand and learn in a world that overwhelms and frustrates them. Lennon has always been a bit odd in some of his behaviors. He is a frequent hand flapper. This. When we're angry, when we're sad, when we're upset, when we're confused, or for whatever reason, this is what we're doing right here. He has to be moving his hands at all times. So he's either flapping them or picking them. We have a lot of this going on too, for no reason. He also stacks everything he can, be it toys, clothes, video games, coins, hair bows, you name it, he stacks it. This is the main way he plays, unless he's on the go. Rarely do you see him being still. He is constantly moving, even when he sits down. One of the main troubles is control. Lennon has to feel like he is in control of every single thing in his life. To most, oh my goodness, I apologize, you guys. I lost my place. Okay, to most, This would sound like spoiled behavior, a child who simply isn't getting his way and throwing a commotion about it. It's all outward judgment because no one knows that child like I do. What the world sees is only on the outside. Most cannot even pick up the internal battle that goes on in his mind. He has difficulty processing things. We rarely go out to eat because these simple activities that most people find pleasurable overwhelm and upset him. To have to sit still in a foreign chair for him basically scrambles up his emotions inside. It's like a snow globe shaking in the middle, and he is a puzzle with only 10 pieces, and everything else in the world is just flattering around him, and he doesn't understand it. It functions well when a particular piece is placed in the right spot, but as we all know, real life is a very complex puzzle. His brain and mind cannot register all these pieces, so he becomes overwhelmed and anxious. He will scream, he will cry, he will flap, he will shake, he will pound. He completely unravels. As expected, people are looking at him when we have this behavior out in public, which makes the situation even worse. Based on this very minimal description of details I've told you guys, I begin to have concerns that my precious baby boy has autism. The National Library of Medicine defines autism, or autism spectrum disorder, as a developmental disorder that appears in the first 3 years of life, and it affects the brain, normal development, and social and communication skills. ACD lacks the understanding of how to interact with another person. Could be the latent language skills, as well as understanding how others communicate with them, and insist or prefer repetitive or routine behavior. Some of the other not so obvious symptoms are things such as repetitive hand flapping, trouble making eye contact, obsessive behaviors such as stacking or lining up objects, and inability to express emotions. How do children with autism differ from those with other developmental delays? In a study conducted by Lisa Capps, Jennifer Canris, and Marius Sigmund from the University of California, they studied the behaviors of 15 children with autism and 15 children that displayed developmental delays. Children who were autistic failed more often to respond to questions and didn't contribute as much new relevant information. Children with autism enhanced their communication by pointing, oftentimes as well as dramatizing. With children who are autistic, you see more of the struggle to respond to people, sometimes even jumbling up their words, where children who are simply unwilling to answer tend to have more of a relaxed and nonchalant response. Oftentimes, children with autism have some form of sensory issues. By this, I mean for people with autism when they're in an environment that they cannot understand, or when multiple things are going on at one time that are complicated or unfamiliar, then the senses get so overstimulating, causing them to overreact. The Autism Research Institute says that these sensory issues can explain why children with autism will often have behaviors such as rocking, head banging, and hand flapping. Because a person with autism's brain responds and reacts differently than someone who doesn't have autism, this is what causes these behaviors. It is believed to come from the neurological dysfunction in the central nervous system, otherwise known as the brain. What that means is when these people or children are going through with autism is something real and serious. It needs to be evaluated by a professional, and a plan of success should be made. Certain types of therapies, such as speech and occupational therapy, help these children learn how to communicate and overall be able to learn ways to exist in our world while still being able to be inside of theirs. I take this issue to heart because for me it has a personal effect. As of now, Lennon has not been diagnosed with anything, and he is starting some therapies to help better his speech and behaviors. It could all turn out that he just has developmental delays and not autism. And honestly, this news would be a joy to hear. People with autism have to learn how to control and deal with it for the rest of their lives. And most people on the outside cannot see the struggles they have every day. Not just autism, but there are many personality disorders most of us either know nothing about or don't consider legitimate. The fact is that these disorders are real, and they are affecting our kids, and they need to be looked at and dealt with. Websites such as parents.com talk about how important it is to look for these signs in your children. Because the key is being diagnosed as soon as possible. The longer it takes to get diagnosed, the longer that child goes without the therapies and medications they may be needing. One of the biggest things is to trust your instincts. And as of now, and seek out medical attention and advice. Technology is easier in our world today, and with the right therapies and doctors and support, all those with autism stand a much better chance of being a part of our society. My message today is to simply ask you to open your minds and not pass judgment. Anyone you can see, anytime you see some child that's struggling in a store, struggling, having a fit, I hope you remember me and my story and Lennon, as we are just a mother and son trying to figure out how both of us can figure this out together. Any questions?
How old is your son?
He's 2. So we're still, most children don't get diagnosed with autism until about 3 to 6 years old. So he's still a little early, but we have started consulting doctors and getting more opinions than just my own.
Do you have a daily routine? Do you stick by a
routine is extremely important in my house.
Autism.
As soon as that child wakes up, he doesn't care if he's the first or last. His breakfast needs to be on that table. His clothes needs to be on his body. His shoes need to be on his feet. We need to go every single day. This is the routine. It can't change. And time, luckily, he's still kind of young, but the time, as long as it's the same schedule, it doesn't matter what time it is, we have to follow the same schedule every day. My whole day revolves around meeting his needs. And I have 3 other children. So, as you can imagine, that's really fun in my house. Anybody else? All right. Oh, go ahead.
How old was he when you started noticing
The first time I started noticing he had problems was when he turned 2, because he wasn't talking a lot. He doesn't say a lot of words. He says basic mommy, daddy, everybody's name in the house, basic words. He doesn't form sentences. He can't tell me, mommy, I want a drink. He doesn't do that. With him, it's crying, crying, crying until I figure out what he wants for now. And thankfully, we're at a point now where he's starting to understand that he needs to tell me or express some way to get what he wants. So we're getting there, but it is a process.
It takes patience.
It's very, very much patience. You have to have a lot of patience when dealing with these kids because they don't understand it at all. They don't understand a lot of what goes on in our world. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate that. And if you don't mind, I would like to go to my second speech, if that's okay.